Hello and welcome along to Clare FM's Sideline View Review. Derek Lynch with you this evening. Coming up on the show, we reflect on Clare's Munster semi-final against Kerry and look ahead to the opening round of the Tailteann Cup. Ahead of Clare versus Limerick next weekend in the Munster Hurling Championship, we speak to 2022 Munster final referee John Keenan, who will be in Ballyea on Saturday evening for a brilliant preview night that's planned there at the Local Inn Drumquin. We'll look ahead to Clare's pivotal final game of the Munster Under-20 Hurling Round Robin Series. Jim Madden wraps up this weekend's local soccer action. And we'll hear about some brilliant Clare success at the All-Ireland Handball Doubles Championship finals. We start this evening though with football, where after a brave showing, Clare just fell to Kerry in the Munster football semi-final by 219 to 114. It means a campaign in the Tailteann Cup for Paul Madden's side, with a first round outing to come against Offaly on the weekend of May 9th. After the game, I caught up with former Clare boss Micheál McDermott to get his thoughts on the performance.
It was a real gutsy fighting performance by Clare, and they give it everything. A couple of mistakes for a couple of goals, and that cost them in the end. But it was a real good battling performance. Some outstanding individual scores. I thought Mark McInerney hit some lovely points in the corner forward again. Who was it? Griffin. Really, really good. And the thing that Clare can look back on their own kick out, they dominated possession, because I think they came away with about 80% of breaking ball around the middle of the field. So it was a really good performance and a competitive performance by Clare.
And just when I check my notes there, we can feel the breeze here. It is going down towards the old scoreboard, and we'll call it. No wides for Clare in that game.
No wides. They were very economical, but you could see there was no rushed shots, there was no panic shots. They were very, very composed, even though people would say, yeah, the build-up was slow or the play was slow, but they were composed rather than slow, I would say. And when the shot was on, they took it. When it wasn't on, they recycled and went looking for another opportunity.
I think what you're talking about there was summed up actually with Conor Meany's very first point out in that shed side. It was that slow lateral play, but he made a darting run to the sideline, and that little break in the line found him the space to swing it over. Yeah, no,
it was a really good performance. And listen, you're playing a really, really good Kerry team, and you could see even in the second half, breaking lines, they're number 4. Every attack, he seemed to be coming off the shoulder, off a pass, and that's what they're really, really good at. Really, really good at.
And on a couple of occasions there in front of us in the stand, they intentionally hung back a fourth defender to release him when everybody else had got back into position, and that created overlaps a lot.
Oh, big time. Now, the one thing that would worry Kerry, I would say, is their full back line. When it was ran at, they were in trouble, because the scores that we were getting off our full forward line, there was no pressure on them, and they took them at ease, and that would be a worry for Kerry maybe moving on into the championship as well. But listen, Kerry, first day out in the month of April, they're just building. You look at all the injuries they were supposed to have. Paddy Clifford was put in there just to get game time in the legs, and that's all he did. He just hung around an area and controlled things. They have Gavin White coming back in and a number of other players, so they're really not looking to peak for the month of April. They're looking for the month of July to really get, as one would say, shit hot.
Talk about that battle then between David Clifford and Ike Maguire. I think that was one people were really enjoying. Clifford kicked his couple of points as he will. Got a bit of help at time with an extra defender maybe taking Ike out of it, but they had a right all battle.
It was disappointing from a Clare point of view that they hadn't Nick driving forward, and that's what he loves to do. But as a man marking job, he was outstanding on him, as he was when he went on to Spillane as well. He's tight, tenacious. I never even thought before today he would be a really good man marker, but he did his job, and he was intent on every tackle he made. Listen, Kerry, they have some of the arts of the game down to a T, and when David Clifford goes to get a shot and there's a second man closing in, all of a sudden that second man doesn't get to that closing in, and they're good at what to do, and they get away with it as well.
For Clare now, it's a refocus. It's a Tailteann Cup campaign that starts in 2 weeks, and go and target it. There's a day out in Croke Park, there's a cup, there's momentum, there's all that.
Well, the Tailteann Cup has changed as a competition over the last 3 years, and Meath have shown that, Down have shown it, Kildare have shown it, and the big thing about the Tailteann Cup, yes, it would be a brilliant competition to win, but it really gives you an opportunity next year to get back to the All-Ireland series. So not alone is it a competition that they're well capable of winning, but number two, it gives you that platform to build on for the following year. That's the huge advantage of the Tailteann Cup as well. And listen, they have a couple of weeks to prepare for it, and they'll give it a real go because they know it's a competition that they can be competitive at, and I'd love to see them go out and win and get back up to All-Ireland football next year.
Now there are the views from on the pitch after that game on Saturday afternoon, finishing up there with former Clare Bonnister Micheál McDermott. Delighted to have Paddy Carmody with us on the line to reflect in an overall sense, Paddy, and I suppose the breaking news, if you can call it that now that a couple of hours has passed this afternoon, is that Clare will take on Offaly in the opening game of the Tailteann Cup, and it will be at home. It'll be in 2 weeks' time, so a brilliant chance to get back up on the horse to what can still be a successful summer.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's probably from a player's perspective, that's the news they kind of want today, to pick themselves up after the weekend, because all you can do after a defeat is, look forward to your next match. So now they have the details of it. They'll be delighted that it's a home draw, I think, especially, and Offaly is a team that definitely won't have us shaking in our boots. I think it's the perfect draw. They've just come down from Division 2. They've had a terrible year. I think they lost every single league game, and they obviously got knocked out by Laois in the first round of their championship. Now they have been decimated with injuries all year as well. I know that, and they're probably really trying to regain those and build a force and try and have a run in the Tailteann Cup. But from our point of view, I think it's a good draw that we want. There's obviously a lot of easier teams in there, but I think the lads will be certainly happy to bring Offaly down, and something to focus on for the week ahead now that the events of the weekends have passed. Yeah,
and I suppose the 2 weeks is the ideal break as well, because I know there was a couple of draws that could have gone the way if a team was still in provincial action. It wouldn't be until 2 weeks later. It would have been quite a long break, whereas, as you say, they can refocus quickly now. Milky was already talking about Tuesday night and seeing to get him back on track again, assess the bodies. I think Owen Cleary is the biggest worry at this stage, so hopefully he might be able to do something in the next couple of weeks. But like that 2 week break, you can decompress a little bit, get used to the disappointment, and harness the hurt a bit.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think, look, it's the third or fourth year in a row now we've played Kerry in the championship, and whatever about the performance, we can talk about that again, but they should be in a position to be able to put this result behind them very quickly. That there was absolutely no embarrassment, played very, very well in a lot of patches against the All-Ireland champions. So they can walk away with a lot of credit in the bank. They won't tell you publicly, and probably still wouldn't admit it publicly, but that they truly believe they were going to win that game. They came out of it with, a lot of kudos. So they'll be perked up, they'll be ready for training, get that, that annual, that annual nightmare against Kerry out of the way, and then you can breathe easy, and you can after you play Kerry in a championship match, there's nobody else in the country that should put that same fear up to you. So they should be bouncing back into training now tonight or tomorrow, and really, really, as you said, look after the injuries, but really focus now on a plan on taking on Offaly and get the win. Beat Offaly the first day. No point going into the Tailteann and struggling. We know it's a different format this year, but get the win and take the pressure off the back, because if you do lose your first round of the Tailteann Cup, you're potentially only one game from being out of your championship and having your season finished already. So that's what I'd be thinking, that the boys will be happy to go back into training this week. I think they'll still take a bit of confidence from the weekend despite losing, and they know that a good result for Offaly will set them up for at least 2 more matches, and see where you are from there. So I think it's perfect for Clare, and I think they'll be bouncing into training tomorrow night.
Yeah, and of course we kind of touched on it there in our interview with Paul, but in terms of the stats of the game, incredible to think that Clare had no wide. I don't know when was the last time, if ever, that happened in a championship game. Couple of that balls that drop short, which are probably as bad as a wide because you're not getting the goalkeeper to kick the ball back out again. But that's really good. Kickouts were probably the best they've been all year. Okay, I think Tristan, when he looks back, and it will be disappointed with the nature of the 2 goals that went in, kind of leaving your line and colliding with a defender in front of you. That's just basic communication. But on his job of distribution anyway, it was absolutely top notch. So that's a real positive to build on.
Yeah, I think bar one or maybe 1 or 2 kickouts, I think Tristan had a really good day. I think you and I think that we speak off air about the quality of his kickouts. You know, he's a really good fella to drill it low, keep it low and accurate. You know, that his half back line or midfielders will look for. So that's very much a positive after the weekend. And he probably, like, we have to remember, while he's had a good few games and goals for UL and for St. Brecken's, you know, he hasn't had a huge amount of time and goals for Clare over the last couple of years, especially championship. So, and when he did, he was kind of thrust in, you know, to the thick and heavy of it. So again, as you said, those 2 goals, you know, like, to me, there was a lot of talk about screening for David Clifford's long ball in, taking him. But for me, I'd be half thinking that it was a square ball that the challenger was in there, taking Tristan on, you know, before the ball had arrived, and that was difficult. But at the same time, you'd expect an inter-county keeper to at least get a fist on that and worry about it afterwards. So I think he made a couple of saves after that. So I think he'll be happy. You know, no different to a lot of the team. Paul Madden, but there's positives everywhere. Maybe bar going out of the game at stages, the goals were soft. You know, there's a lot of positives to be taken out of the weekend.
And I suppose finally, lessons in defeat. I think structurally Clare found out that we need Cillian Rowan at 6. He offered a great deal of certainty there, and, you know, did his usual driving forward. And Ickham's man-marking job on David Clifford. I know it was said before, I think Clifford said the toughest, tightest defender he ever met was our own Gordon Kelly. I think he's going to be putting Ickham alongside Gordon's performance after the weekend, and if he meets as tight a defender from here till Croke Park, if they get there, he'll have met a good one. It was some man-marking job he did.
Yeah, it was very impressive. And, you know, I think when we all thought at the start maybe we were a bit kind of, you know, our centre forward named and he gone in on Clifford, but I think we were all reasonably optimistic that he would be the man to do it. Obviously, when you're doing that, you're sacrificing the other parts of his game, but my God, what an athlete, you know, like how he carries himself, but his pace, his power, his physique, and as well as that, like, you know, and when you're tailing David Clifford, the runs he's going to be making, his movement on the ball, yes, he's going to get away a fair percentage of shots, but it was definitely one of David Clifford's quieter days, and it can take a lot of credit into the bank too. Like, you know, it was a huge ask, and we have to say again, I mentioned the word screening earlier on, and we don't want to be sucking on sour grapes or anything like that, but there was a couple of instances there where Ickham was deliberately, you know, put off his run by other Kerry attackers. Maybe we should learn more on how to do that when we're trying to get Mark McInerney and Aaron Griffin and Emmett and Noel Cleary and these boys free for shot at the other end. Kerry gave an exhibition of it. You know, so while he did a great job, you know, what's testified that it took other Kerry forwards to put Ickham off so that David Clifford could be free. So that says everything to me.
Yeah, and as we say, plenty positives to take, with the thoughts now turning to that Offaly game. Up next here on Sideline View, we will be speaking to former inter-county hurling referee John Keenan ahead of Ballyea's preview night coming up this weekend. Now, if you want to really set the tone for the weekend and you want a good night of hurling chat and crack before that big game on Sunday in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, you could do worse than heading to the Local Inn in Ballyea to support the Ballyea Club's fundraising event. A lovely preview night planned. The likes of Paul Flanagan, Dara Conan, Niall Moran will be there as well. But also a man I think a lot of people will be interested in meeting and hearing from is Wicklow's John Keenan, the man that gave one of the greatest refereeing displays of all time in that Munster final a couple of years ago between Clare and Limerick, fittingly enough. Delighted to have him on the line with us. John, how are things?
All good, Derek. Thanks a million for making contact with me. All good here in Wicklow on at the minute.
Good stuff. Tell me, before we ask anything else, are you missing that inter-county scene?
Oh, geez, I am for the last. But this me third year out of it now, like, and as I say to a lot of other people, like, the dark nights and on your own winter training, you wouldn't miss as much. But when you're sitting down like I was yesterday, looking at the 2 Munster hurling championship matches, and as I say, I have been doing that for the last couple of years, you definitely would miss them. You definitely would miss them. Miss the games anyway.
Has the 3 years that you've been out of the game and you watching, we'll say watching on live, whether it's television or at the grounds, how much has the workload increased on referees since, or has it evened out a bit?
I'd say it's evened out a bit. Like if you're going back, I'd say from 10 years ago, or even when did I start? So 2012, 2013, when I came onto the panel, like it wasn't anywhere as near as savage intensity as it is now. Like, you know, you can really notice it. But probably the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, it's sort of settled out a bit. Like a lot of people wouldn't know that the referees, even though it's you're on your own individual training there, like there is group sessions that are done. So like the referees do put in an awful lot of hard work there, unseen by the public. Like, you know, so they do a lot of work themselves. Like, you know.
What have you made of this introduction of the descent rule into hurling? We saw Peter Queally falling foul of it yesterday there. Chris Mooney wasn't long in brandishing the card and moving the ball up. Would you love to have that in your locker?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I do club football here in Wicklow. Like, you know, I do both coach here in Wicklow, and like I think we can all agree that the rules that were brought into the football over the last couple of years by Jim Gavin and the FRC have definitely made it a far better game, and it does help referees. Like, you know, because and players, in fairness to them, have bought into it. It'll probably take a little while for the hurling fraternity to get used to it, because it's new to them this year. Like, you know, but. I say once you brandish the yellow card to the sideline, unfortunately the punishment is you march the ball the whole way up front of the goal for a definite score, more or less. Like, you know, so they'll get used to it, I'd say, after a couple of games. Like, you know, so.
I suppose we look at league and championship, don't we, in two very different prisms in the GAA, and particularly in hurling. Have you kind of noticed that trend that maybe from January to March or April, there's a particular bugbear that everybody's talking about every Monday morning, and then all of a sudden, once the championship gets underway, there's no sight nor light of it?
Well, my own person, like I said, when you're trying to move up the ladder in the refereeing circle, like everyone knows that we have someone in the stand keeping an eye on us. Like, you know, they're giving us a report after each match, and obviously you want to progress. It's the very same as playing. You want to go as far in the year as you possibly can. So there's all the referees are on the league panel. There are probably 33 referees on it, and then it's broken down then for championship. So you have an elite panel then of, I think it's 12 or 14 now for the championship panel. So you will keep a little bit tighter, and that's speaking from experience myself. You'll keep it a bit tighter during the league to make sure that you get onto that championship panel, and then you sort of can relax it a small bit then in championship, because you've actually made the panel, you know. And that's the way I worked it anyway, like in my career. So
yeah, and it brings me nicely to a question I've always wanted to ask you, John, because I was working at that Munster final, and I remember those first 90 seconds to 2 minutes were as savage, as intense, as enjoyable, I think, as a lot of people had seen in quite some time. When you're inside in the middle of that, can you remember, like, what's going through your head? Had you made a decision to let them just let off all this kinetic energy and then let it settle down?
I left the house that morning, and of course I wanted a lovely sunny day like we have today, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And like we got the toilets, and I purposely drove up through the square that day. Usually I wouldn't, but I was down there early enough, but I purposely drove up through the square. Some of the umpires met us at the Horse and Jockey, so we all travelled up together, and just to get the atmosphere. So we got in there, and like I've looked at that game many times, and I look back at it again now before I head to Clare on Saturday night. Like, you know, it's just get me in the mood for it as well. Like, you know, but I didn't consciously go out, as people often tell me, geez, you're going to swallow the whistle. I didn't consciously go out to do that, but I think I had got to a stage that the players bought into what I wanted to get out of it. And like, if you look at that first 2 minutes, as you said, like there was good heavy hitting it, but there actually wasn't a dirty belt in that first couple of minutes as well. And I think that set off to the way it went, like, you know. So no, it was enjoyable. That's all I'll say to you.
Yeah, but was it the type of game like that? Maybe you had having that comfort as an established referee on the panel, and you know you're maybe allowed to do that. Would you get the same leeway if those 2 minutes came in a league game? I suppose, in the context of what we just spoke about.
Probably not. Like it's like players. players don't want to miss games through getting sent off for that, so they generally 9 times out of 10. I know we had a couple of incidents there yesterday, but 9 times out of 10, they don't want to, like, you're playing the Munster final, you don't want to cost your team, so generally they will buy into the way you want to referee it. And what I knew all those players. I didn't know them personally, but I'd referee them a good bit, and they knew the way I dealt with things. They knew what they could push it to a small bit, so. That's the way I refereed it, So now, as I said, if Tony Kelly hadn't put the ball over the bar in the last puck of the game, we wouldn't have had the little few incidents that were brought to my attention the following morning. So, everything had went swimmingly well up to that, and on the day there was a couple of things that happened the next time that we didn't pick up in the day, and I suffered because of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know how much into this you want to get, but I suppose a common maybe analysis out there is that you were nearly punished for letting the players play away that day, that it was a sense of, geez, we can't let this stuff be developing or whatever, even though nothing developed in those first 2 minutes, obviously. But did you feel that? Or was there anything out at the time? I mean, we didn't see you again after that.
No, I come home that evening. I'll never forget, it was bank holiday weekend, June bank holiday weekend, and so we obviously had to walk off on Monday. And I got back late to the club that night, and sure, there was a couple of lads had hung around, and we went for a couple of drinks, and then it was on the Monday morning. Then we had got. I'd look back at it and I'd say, yeah, there was a couple of things now. Like, referees are judged. Like, you go into a game, and you can miss little things, but there's key game decisions that you need to get right, and we didn't get them right in today, so. But I didn't think I'd be, as I say, put out the grass for the rest of the year, so there was 7 games left, and I didn't see any of them, so. But that was hard now. That was hard to take, but because especially I was coming into me last year in 2023, and I said, right, where am I at? What am I going to do? And sure, I rang my umpires during the off season. We had a good old chat, and I said, fake it, lads. We've had a good run. I obviously at that stage hadn't got the All Ireland. So I said, we've 1 year left. We won't sulk now. We'll put the head down. Worked hard and got the games then in 23, and sure, things worked out very well for me that year. I probably tightened up a small bit earlier in the year, which did help. I think it helped me. But the winter of 22 was hard. Yeah.
And even that thing of staring down the barrel of retirement the year after, you, as you mentioned at the start, you're still active in the club scene up in Wicklow in both codes. Do you think maybe that's something that needs to be looked at, that rather than it being an age-based assessment, that maybe it's an ability or endurance-based type of scenario?
If you have 5 hours, I go through it all with you, but I cut it down as short as I can. as I always said, and there's a very, very good friend of mine, and we still chat daily, and that's Paul. Myself and Paul were both 50 in 2023, and we were both sort of gunning. None of us had done another, and we were both after the one thing, and it would have been lovely for both of us to have got one, because we were very, very close and still are. But as we always said, me and Paul we were very fit at 50. We worked hard. We looked after ourselves, and we didn't want to go on, or anyone. You won't go till you're 54, 55. It's physically not possible. That's being honest with you. But another year or two, I would have loved to come back after 23 to just go out, have another year or two added, and we were passing fitness tests, we were passing all the rules tests. If I didn't pass a fitness test in 2024, or whoever it be, or didn't get the rules tests all correct, I would have had no issue. But I do think it should be fitness, performance related, or judged on, and not age related. That's the way I'd like it to be. Now, as I said, I understand why it was probably brought in the first place, because it actually helped me along, because some of the other older brigade, Brian Gavin's, Barry Kelly's, and those they were moved on, and it gave us a chance then to come in and get the games, so I understood it, but I was, still disappointed.
Absolutely. I suppose one other big debate as well that's been had in the GA still, and I don't know will there ever be a full-on resolution to it, but from a technological perspective, where do you stand on maybe the need for that, or is there a need for it, or what do you feel can maybe help referees? Because we're sitting at home or even in a press box and we have a screen in front of us and we can slow a thing down to a microsecond. The referee is on his feet, it's instinctive. Do we need to maybe take that emotion out of it a little bit and give them an area that can help technologically?
Oh, 100%. I've said this before. I've been talking to numerous people over the last number of years, and now you don't want to go. My own opinion is you don't want to go as far as the rugby and basically look at nearly every decision. But like as I said, referees, their performance is based on key game decisions. So whether that be a sending off, a missed score, or a penalty, stuff like that. Like if you can, if it only take, and as you say yourself, Derek, you're sitting at home. I was sitting at home there, and if you look at a replay 10 seconds and it's black and white, it's done and dusted. That's definitely an area that, to me, could help the referees, or actually would help the referees. You know, now you can be lucky at times as well, and you can be in the right place, and or you can be in the wrong place. So on the field, there could be someone cross your eye line, and you might miss something. But as you say, if you had that little bit of help there, like I wouldn't be every free in hurling. I wouldn't be looking to go back and look at that, like, you know. But as I say, the big one, the red cards, the penalties, and any scores, stuff like that. Like, I definitely think a little bit of help would be welcome.
Yeah, it was interesting watching the Keane Lynch replays yesterday, because in actual fact James Owens was no more than 10 yards away from it, and he was actually straight on. So from an eye line perspective, he had it. But you just wonder if there had been a player or two in James's eye line, you know, where then does he actually get the advice to, because it's in the middle of the park. A linesman doesn't see that either.
No, exactly, and like I said, like I don't generally come, but I thought it was a great spot yesterday. Like, you know, I thought it was like anyone that looked at that same thing. You're standing there looking at it, and you're saying, "Geez, what happened there?" But when it showed it, as you say, James looks after himself. James in his last year, this year as well now, but looks after himself, and he was close enough to catch it. Like, you know, and I don't think anyone could have any complaints with the outcome of that decision anyway. Like, you know, so but I say you need that little bit of luck as well to be close enough to it, and as you said, Derek, not to have people because you have 30 lads on the pitch there. Lads can be crossing you, you know. So, but say he got it correct anyway, which is the main thing.
As we mentioned at the start, you're in the local inn in Ballyea on Saturday evening ahead of a massive game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and I guess the results yesterday and I suppose Clare's win the first day out, it's setting up for a cracker. You must be looking forward to it.
And I am looking forward to it. Like I say, long weekend. Managed to secure a couple of tickets for myself and the good wife. As I say, it's nice. I was down at the Tipperary Cork game last weekend, so I still get down to Munster whenever I can. I enjoy it, and sure, say when the game is like Limerick have lost one now. Clare won their first one, and as a proud Clare man yourself, and I know there's a good bit of rivalry down there. Like, I'm sure Clare would love to get one over on Limerick now on Sunday and have them on 4 points and Limerick on 0, and it'd be nice and tasty then for the next couple of rounds going into it. It
certainly would. We'll keep more of that good stuff, John, for the crew to come to Ballyea on Saturday evening. Really looking forward to being at that event. But for now, thanks for taking the time to have a chat with us, and we'll see you at the weekend.
That's lovely, Derek. Thanks a million.
Now, after a rather dramatic evening in FPD Simple Stadium for our under-20 hurlers, it's another big one coming up in Super Value Páirc Uí Chaoimh this Wednesday night when Clare go to take on Cork. Final round of the round robin. Clare guaranteed at least an away semi-final. It could be a home semi-final or it could be a final, all depending on results. There's about 8, I think, different permutations that can occur across the evening. Tommy Guilfoyle with us, look ahead. I suppose, Tommy, we can simplify it by saying a Clare win puts them into the final, but just a quick reflection on last Wednesday night, I suppose, and in particular maybe those last 3 minutes. Drama that we haven't seen unfolding at this grade for quite some time.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, during the game probably we couldn't envisage the finish that we got because you know, while Clare were, I won't say struggling, they were struggling to make an impact against the tip defence, and then all of a sudden, you know, 2-2 with the reply of 1 point was a real hammer blow to Tipperary. Now, they had been down to 14 men, but from a Clare point of view, you know, they never gave up. You know, they kept going, and I think, you know, epitomised by Daniel Costello. I thought he really was the driving force at midfield, and, you know, got his just rewards with the goal and then the winning point. I suppose at that stage we'd have taken a draw, but just Tip, you know, lost their concentration, lost their shape, and Clare snuck in for, you know, a super win going down to Thurles against, you know, a much valued Tipperary team. You know, the ironic thing is that, you know, I suppose we were, discussing that maybe this team didn't play to its potential in the first 2 rounds, albeit that we won them. But I think there was a much improved performance in Thurles, when the need was greatest. So I think they'll take that on board going to Cork on Wednesday night. Now it's a big test going to Cork, but as you said, all to play for. So, I think Clare again, depending on, the injury situation, which hasn't been kind to this group, but they've never used it as an excuse. Hopefully we'll have as many, potential starters fit and ready to go for Wednesday evening.
Yeah, and I suppose there was a little bit of a rejig of the team as well for that game. Did it add a new dynamic, or how did you read that?
Yeah, well, look at I think the Graham Ball coming into midfield and added great energy, particularly in the first half. Costello was very consistent throughout, but for me, I think Michael Collins's performance really went up. I thought he was way more direct. Again, took on the shots when they needed to be on. So, look at again, Sheedy in goals. I thought, with when Tip were 6 or 7 points up, if they had got that third goal, it would have been probably, a game beyond Clare. But he kept them in it. And again, I thought that the half back line, supplied a good lot of ball. As I said, were a lot more direct than they had been, to the inside line. So again, the beauty of this competition is that you develop, you improve from round to round, and hopefully we can culminate the round robin series with our best performance.
And it's coming down the stretch, as we said. Just to give people an idea as to how the table is looking, Clare sitting on 6 points after 3 victories. You've Cork on 4 and Tip on 4. Obviously, we're in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but Tip are taking on Limerick. Now, that game is in the Gaelic grounds, but Tip are out. They've really nothing to play for in it, which maybe can make a team dangerous if they're just playing for pride. If Tip were to lose, well, then the result in Cork would decide everything. Other than that, we're kind of adding up numbers, and we'll do that on Wednesday night. But having it in your own hands, I guess, is massive. And we know they went to Páirc Uí Chaoimh last year at that late Dermot Stritch goal, I think, turning that semi-final on that night. So there is clear form down there.
Yeah, and again, I think they will relish. Again, we spoke about, I think their hurling improved in the open spaces of Thurles to Leicester. So, probably what is the best pitch in Ireland is Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Now, it'll probably be an eerie silence with a small crowd in a big stadium. But I'm sure the management and the players will be, focused on getting a performance first. And then, hopefully that performance will get them a draw or a win. But I think they won't be hanging back. They'll be going because it's all to play for, as you said. Win, and we get to a Munster final, probably which we would have expected prior to this championship starting, based on the fact that we were minor champions 3 years ago. But as I said, they've been bedeviled by injuries, but they've never used that as an excuse. I think, so again, it's probably a free shot. We're going to be in the semi-final, as you said, but the reward is a final or a home semi-final, so it's all to play for.
But I guess as well, the fact that this is a group with injuries, as you've mentioned, getting to the final gives you a 2-week break, because the semi-finals take place a week later, then it's on to the final. So that, from a Clare point of view, would be quite a gruelling schedule, coming off the back of Thurles and going to Cork, and then a semi-final next week and a final again. That's a hectic schedule. A 2-week break here is as good as a bonus as being straight through to the final, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But I'm sure, I suppose, look at when you get to the knockout stages, they come thick and fast. And ideally you would like a bit of a break to see could those injuries get back. But I'm sure Cork are looking at the same. It'll be interesting from a Cork point of view, with the break that the Cork seniors have. Will they start Barry Walsh, who has been, a key member of their senior team, but also, the leading light with the Cork under 20. So it'll be interesting how the 20s and the senior management managed that occasion. But, they didn't play him the last day, and, other players stepped up. They have a very strong half-back line in Brosnan O'Leary and Ben Walsh, together with, Colm Gard came in, I think, the last night, played very well with James O'Brien. Up front, they're a big, strong physical team with, Zach Began, John Murphy, Barry O'Flynn, and Finn O'Brien took over the free taking. And, what impressed me most the last day from a Cork point of view was that they ground out a victory in Dungarvan. When the going got tough, the subs made a big impact, and the Cork team just kept going right to the end and got their reward. So this isn't all about flair. I think they showed the last that they have the real fight in them when they were backed into a corner. And as I said, missing Barry Walsh that day, it'll be interesting to see. As I said, will they start him or will they have him in reserve? We'll have to wait and see.
And we will be live from Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Wednesday night for that game. Lots to live up to for drama from last week's outing in Simple Stadium, that's for sure. Back shortly here on Sideline View Review. Now we turn our attentions to soccer here on Sideline View Review, where once again Jim Madden is with us to look back on a weekend. Maybe didn't have the busiest of fixture lists over the last couple of days, Jim, but some significant ones all the same.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, none more so than at Avenue on Saturday evening, where in the Cup quarter-final, Avenue beat Tulla by 2-1 after extra time. A game that was incredibly competitive, both sides giving it everything. Tulla went in front early in the middle of the second half, or the first half, I should say, with Éanna Collu scoring, and they led by 1-0 at half time. Then, and very late in the second half, Ronan Kearns scored for Avenue to tie the game up, and then in extra time, Sean O'Callaghan got in to score in the very late second period of extra time. Now, one of the things that I found rather difficult about that game was I think 6:30 was far too late to start, because by the time that Sean O'Callaghan scored, visibility was not very good. And if the game had gone to penalties, it's hard to know how anybody would have been able to take them. The game should definitely have been scheduled for maybe 5:30 at the latest, but that's the way it went, and they got the result. The other game, unfortunately, Sporting and Shannontown B was off due to the death of William Buckley here in Shannon, who was the father of one of the Shannontown players. And in the Premier League then, Shannontown 0, Newmarket Celtic 2. This game was tied 0-0 up till about the 80th minute, and then unfortunately for Shannontown, they put the ball in their own net for an OG, and then later, just before the full time, Newmarket got another goal to make it 2-0, and they went home comfortably with the 3 points. Also in the Premier on Sunday, there was a great game in Ennis where they shared, Ennis Dons and Kilrush shared 7 goals, Ennis Dons winning by 4-3. Also on Saturday then, in the first division, Shannon Olympic and Moher Celtic played out a 2-2 draw, and this, I'm told, was a very, very good game, end-to-end stuff throughout, and that a result was a very fair result indeed. And there's no doubt that if Olympic pick up their points in because they have a lot of games in hand, they could put themselves firmly in the promotion race. Connolly Celtic played Shannon Hibs, and that ended by 2-2 all, and there's no doubt that was a dint maybe in Hibs's promotion hopes. Ferden Celtic in the division beat Manus by 6-0. Also on Saturday in the Youths League, Shannontown beat Avenue by 3-1, while the Bridge were beaten 4-2 by Newmarket. And then in the second division, Derek, Avenue B 5, Cool FC 0, and in the third, in the Women's League, Tulla 1, Moher Celtic 2, Derek.
Fantastic. So that's a good wrap-up of the results there. Just to go back to that cup game, I suppose it's, as we mentioned, probably the most significant one of the weekend, and it does mean we'll have a new pairing in the final for this year anyway. Don't know it'll be a new altogether one, but certainly last year's runners-up Tulla won't be back in the final again. For Avenue, it feels like a big win, a big step forward.
Yes, indeed, and they had to work incredibly hard because Tulla really did take the game to them, and as I said, they went in front in the first half, led 1-0 at half time, and right into the late stages of the second half, Tulla also missed a couple of good chances maybe to put themselves 2-0 up, and that would have killed off the game. Both goalkeepers played very well indeed. In the early stages, the Avenue keeper was a bit nervous under the high ball and that kind of thing, and tended to punch the ball away, But later in the game, his handling was faultless, and Tulla must have been saying it's a pity he wasn't making the mistakes he made in the first half. But a cracking game of football. It was a pity that basically near the end, as I said, Derek, that the light was fading very, very quickly indeed, and that doesn't help.
Yeah, we're not quite into summer yet, I suppose. That long evening visibility probably not there up to 8:30 or 9 as it will be in a while. We looked in, Jim. I know we'll go midweek in a minute because there's a couple of significant games there on Wednesday evening. But I suppose at this time of year, okay, the First Division title is wrapped up, but I suppose everybody's looking now at promotion, relegation, who's in contention where. So in the First Division, I suppose in particular, that's heating up a bit.
It is indeed, because I didn't realise it until I looked at the weekend. I must have had a boring weekend, Derek, that some of the teams still have a lot of games to play, and Shannon Olympic in particular have 11, they played 11, so that means they have 5 more to play. They're on 14 points, and if they got a good run, they could overtake Hibs and Ferden Celtic to be either second or third in that table. Bunratty could probably do something similar. They have played 14 games and they have 18 points, but they'd need to win all of their games that's left there. So, it should be an exciting run in. And in midweek, Olympic are at home to Mount Shannon, so they'll be looking to take the points there and keep themselves on a run at the moment.
Absolutely. And speaking of midweek then, big game in McDonagh Park, Tulla United versus Newmarket. Tulla looking to bounce back from that cup exit, but I guess the fact that they're maybe out of contention for the league and now out of the cup as well, I know that they'll have eyes on other bits and pieces, but at the same time it's a quick turnaround for them after a disappointing loss.
It is indeed, and of course remember they played a hell of a lot of football on Saturday evening, and I heard some of their supporters saying it's a bit unfair to be asking them to play again such an important game on Wednesday, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, as the fella said. But there is no doubt that they are incredibly fit. I'm very impressed by them, and they'll be up against Newmarket. These games have always been tight, Derek, but there's no doubt that I would think that Saturday's game could take a little bit out of Tulla from a physical point of view, and also mentally as well, because they really did want to get into the cup final where they were last year as well. And the other game then in the Premier, Shannon Town, who felt that they were a bit unlucky to lose to Newmarket on Saturday evening, they're at home to Kilrush. Little for them, either them other than pride here probably, but I think that Shannon Town should win that.
Yeah, Kilrush, they're second bottom in the table, and a bit of drift of Fairgreen Celtic above them. Scoring difference doesn't really look to be in their favour either, so a lot for them to maybe try and make up for next season as well. Jim, anything else we need to touch on?
Not really. I mean, we'll be hoping, of course, that the game that was postponed on last Saturday, Sporting and Shannon Town B, I haven't seen when that is going to be refixed, but there's a very good chance I'd say it'll take place next weekend. Yeah,
and of course the winners go on to play Avenue in the semi-final as the cup final date looms as well. That's great, Jim. Listen, we'll wrap it all up again on Friday evening. Thanks for having a chat.
Thank you.
Now, it was quite a successful weekend for Clare handball. We previewed the action with Orla Constantine on Friday evening's show. Delighted to welcome her back as a winner on Monday evening's show. Not saying we had any major influence over it or anything like that, but congratulations, Orla. Always nice to be bringing titles back to the county.
Yeah. It was a great weekend. Almost everybody home in very good form out of it. That we played in 6 finals and had 4 titles coming back out of that, and one of those being a Senior All-Ireland Championship first time performance for 2 girls who performed very well, so that's a win for them, if you like, on the way, and bringing I suppose 2 major titles in the minor doubles, ladies and men's back, adding to their singles, is a huge achievement for the county and a huge achievement for those players individually. They performed very well over the week, and there was 2 All-Irelands in Masters grade, so a very, very successful weekend for Clare athletes taking part in the handball in the National Centre in Croke Park.
Yeah, mighty stuff. We'll get into them in more detail in a minute. But you highlighted, and I thought it was an interesting note on Friday evening, that single success may not necessarily transfer to double because it's a different dynamic, it's a different everything really, and it's no major sign. So to get back to a final was brilliant, but I mean, for them to go and win it is just sensational altogether.
Yeah, it definitely was. And while you have the individual abilities of the players, what was very noticeable in the Clare pairs that played over the weekend was the communication and the cooperation between the two players, and how they have, developed, I suppose, partnerships that they're able to communicate and trust in one another and believe in one another and encourage each other on. Because definitely teams that we've seen our doubles pairs play over the last few weeks and in the finals, or two individuals inside maybe playing against a pair, and that's very noticeable in doubles when it comes down to it. And Clare definitely had that sorted over their campaign, and some of these players are playing well together, like Mike Baker and Shane Walsh have played together in campaigns for a number of years, so it was great to see them get the rewards for having their over the years putting in so much time into games, and for that eventually to come to fruition. And in the minor ladies and the minor men's, Claire and Isabel had played together last year as well too. So you could see the experience of them and the relationship that they're building together. And the same for Sean and Owen, who would have played together over the last 2 years on and off in a few tournaments where it comes, and they play together in the World Championships, and those chances don't come around very often for juvenile players to play singles and doubles. So it's great to see those relationships building, and that translates on the results scoreline then as well too.
Yeah, and just when you break down the score in each set, I suppose that dominance from a Clare perspective is very, very evident, because a lot of them were by wide margins. I think the 21-16 in the second set of the ladies minor is probably how close it came. I mean, other than that, you're looking at, that Masters ladies performance must have been sensational altogether, 21-6, 21-1. So I suppose that cohesion really did transfer to scoring.
Yeah, it does, because it's a very small space when it gets round to it, and knowing when it's your ball or when it's not, or when it's time to leave it off to somebody else because they might be better at that type of shot. And it's that communication. And I suppose for the girls in the minor, in that second game of it, Galway threw everything that they had at them, and sometimes that can be unnerving, or it can put somebody off of their stride, and they can panic a little bit and start rushing shots. But the Clare girls, in fairness to them, they never panicked on that. I suppose they had that bit of experience to pull in on, and took their time out, came out, settled themselves again, and instead of getting all excited and rushing at it, just relied back to the skills and their communication and worked through that. And sometimes that's where you can see people panic in handball and things go very wrong for them.
You're usually at the side of the courts taking notes and keeping everybody posted on everything that's happening. What was it like being stuck inside in the middle of it?
It's definitely a different side to it. It is that bit, I suppose, that the nerves and the tension definitely come into it. So as it's not easy. So there's definitely a huge appreciation of what the others do day in, day out, and at a much higher level. And I suppose the pressure that will be on them from themselves to perform based on, and the hope that they will perform and provide results, because they have hours and hours and hours put into it. Whereas myself and Sheila, we enjoyed the day.
Very good, and enjoyed the evening too, I'm led to believe, which was well earned. And I have to say, a lovely photo as well, Orla, of yourself and Sean. Both of you bringing back honours to the county, and given how steeped you are in it on a personal level with the mammy hat on, it must be a lovely moment.
Yeah, that's something that would never, ever, ever have thought of happening. I suppose in the last 2 years, the ladies in Clare have been very good and have been very proactive. So it's kind of, here, let's get in with them and let's make this happen, and supporting it. and getting out then and playing games where others might be a little bit more nervous of it, because I suppose where I have been used to the seeing what happens, knowing, well, sure, let's go and let's give it a crack and have the fun at it. The result won't really matter to us. But then I suppose you do get to, oh, well, I am playing a final, and it is possible that maybe you could have two in the house, and for, I suppose, a mammy and a son to be out and playing together and have that little bit of time together, it's good, until he's in the alley telling you what you're doing wrong.
That's payback for years of it going the other way, I would imagine. Do things start to wind down from here a little bit? So is there a close season coming?
Definitely not as busy a season. It never closes off. The handball season turns now to the bigger alley, which can be played in the warmer weather and bigger courts. We only have the one in Clare, and that's over in Tuamgraney. So some people will be wearing a path over to that. It's not as popularly played in Clare, but that championship season is commencing now, and we will have some people playing in it. So it's a little bit of a quieter season.
Very good. Well, it's not been a bad one at all, given the success that we've tracked over the last couple of months, for sure and certain. Orla, to yourselves and everybody involved, huge congratulations, and enjoy a well-deserved little bit of a break anyway.
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks for following us.
And that is all we have time for here on Sideline View Review this evening. Clare versus Cork in the Munster Minor Football Championship is just about to get underway in Clarecastle also this evening in the opening game of the Phase 2 series. There'll also be an extended version of this week's show available as a podcast on the Clare FM website shortly, so you can get more content there. The West Wind is up next here on Clare FM. Have a great Monday evening.